Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today's video is going to be more about technical analysis, price in the short term mainly, and a little bit in the long term. Last video, we talked about the Federal Reserve. We talked about a few other things surrounding Zebec. And oh my, that video is already so long. I did not want to make it, 30 minutes in total. So here we are with a second video. We can see that Zebec is currently ranked 138 out of 9,424 active cryptos. We can see over the last month, we are just down 0.5%. So literally the definition of going sideways. Yes, there have been times where we have gone up, right? We can see that we're currently around 0.0038, and we even gone up all the way to 0.005, but everything all those pumps were very, very short lived, just a couple of days at best. But generally, we have been just kind of going sideways, which is not the worst thing. Yes, it's very, very annoying if, you want things to just start happening now. I understand we're also in this time and day and age, where everything kind of just happens instantly, instant, satisfaction and gratification. Deliveries are like one day. You could Uber something, you could just go on Netflix to watch something. I mean, everything is just instant delivery practically nowadays. So I understand, patience is going to be a big, big virtue this cycle, especially when it comes to Zebec and a bunch of other altcoins. But yeah, overall, yeah, we're down 0.75 or 0.73% a month now. It moved a little bit, 10% in the last 7 days. So we can see in the last 7 days, it has been a little bit more of a bloodbath, but nothing too crazy in my personal opinion. In the last day, we are just down 1%. So again, nothing too crazy. 357 million market cap, 16.5 million volume. Now, people are asking me, what do I think is my minimum price prediction? Let's just say if Zebec didn't live up to the hype, or maybe there was an XRP partnership, or, let's just say just the minimum, right? I still think we have a very, very solid 25 to 30x from here. My prediction is ultimately around 10 billion market cap in terms of what's realistic when it comes to Zebec underperforming, in my opinion, right? When I first started to cover Zebec, I definitely thought we could hit 10 billion, and that was kind of my end goal. I did think we could hit a little bit higher, but as the project evolves, as we get more data, as even I understand Zebec, more and more, and like I said, everything is just getting approved. They're living up to this standard, living up to the name. Things are getting done in the background. Big papers are getting signed. Institutions are jumping on board. Evidence for exchanges, exchange listings, just a bunch of stuff. The price prediction overall long term does rise. But like I said, at the minimum, we should be looking for a 25 to 30x, which would roughly be, let's just say we're at 4 cents. So a 10x would be, yeah, so roughly, let's just say 12 cents, right? 10 to 12 cents, 10 to 13 cents is that minimum range I would be expecting for Zebec to hit this cycle. But to be honest, I expect it to do much better. I know if people want to hit 1 cent first, and then we could talk about bigger price predictions. But listen, momentum is a big thing in crypto. Something can be kind of going sideways and doing whatever for 2 years, and then I can have 2 fantastic months that cause you life-changing gains, because that's just crypto. Look, we can see we're at 86,765 holders. So even though, we slowed down between the 19th and the 20th, we only grew roughly 15 holders. We can see already today alone, we already up 50 holders instead of 15. So we can see, right? People are stacking up on Zebec, and I do expect to hit 87,000 by the end of this week. Probably a little bit more, but at least 87,000 holders. Look, I wanted to show this. I did show this previously, right? I did show this previously in a video, but this was near the end of the video. I want to show it more towards the beginning and the middle. We can see Dogecoin, right? Last cycle hit, boom, 82 billion market cap, people. 82 billion, right? Zebec is around, what, which says 300 something million market cap. So look, guys, I'm telling you, right? I've seen crazy coins, something like Dogecoin that was meaningless, that has inflation, that literally has no real value, go up insane numbers. Look at the market cap, 337 million, right? Where the mouse is at right now, right? And it's around the same time frame that we're at right now, right? October 17th, the 20th, right? This one's 327 million. And we can see, right? People were also doubting Dogecoin. No, I was doubting Dogecoin. Definitely did not think it was going to do that well back then. And then we can see just a few months later, within 6 months, it went from 300 million to 82 billion. Do not doubt crypto. Do not doubt the momentum in crypto. Okay. I'm telling you, our time will come. Okay. Our time will come. So, yeah, this is why I say certain price targets, price predictions, is because not only have other cryptos that are way worse hit that, but Zebec itself is a fantastic project that we consistently talk about. Okay. Anyways, let's look at the technical analysis. Right now, we are on the weekly chart, and you might be confused. You see a bunch of lines on your screen, the green one and the orange one. So when the orange is above the green line, that means structure is consistently bullish, right? So this is the weekly time frame. We can see the orange has been above the green ever since kind of like, let's just say April 28th, April 21st, somewhere there, right? That's when it officially flipped. And we can see when the orange line went across and above the green line, right? Momentum has been consistently going up and up and up and up. And yes, despite sometimes price going a little bit lower, right? We have not flipped to the downside at all when it comes to the weekly candles, right? There's no point in really doing this in the monthly. There's not enough data for a coin like this. You would need years and years of data. But we can see the weekly has been looking very nice. So even if Zebec were to come down to, let's say, 0.033 or 32, right, we would still be very, very bullish because the green is still below the orange. Now, when we go to something like the daily, we can see it mixes up a little bit more, right? We saw here when the green line went above the orange line, right? There was a heavy sell-off. When the orange line went above the green line, there was a heavy buy. And, it's not always going to be the most accurate and perfect, but it does give a very, very good indication overall. We can see when the orange line went below the green, we sold off a lot. And then the green was above our chart for multiple days. And despite us having certain spikes, it was still saying we are bearish. There's no real upside momentum until, right, we started to kind of go sideways, and then we can see we flipped. And now once again, right, the orange line is below the green. So what is that indicating? Well, according to this indicator, that we are kind of bearish. And to tell you the truth, we are a little bit, right? We have been kind of trending sideways, more or less, generally speaking, but the last few days have been very, very weak candles. Okay, we talked about a potential reverse, right? We talked about a potential reverse happening on Sunday, right? We had this big candle. We had a little bit of a pullback, and we said, there's a good chance that we would go and retest off of this zone right here, the 0.0039, to continue to go up. But when the daily candle closed, right, we had something like this. We had this blue candle right over here. And it was a very, very weak buying pressure candle. And I knew the moment I saw that daily candle, I was like, yeah, we're not going to be bursting to the upside just yet. We're not ready. Okay. So we can see we do have some downside momentum, but do not get discouraged, right? Just because there's downside momentum now doesn't mean a week from now we're still going to be in the downside. And even if we are a week from now, that doesn't mean a month from now we are. Okay. Things consistently come and go, right? This is why you can't get too excited when something starts pumping, and you can't get too depressed and anxious when things start dumping, because market has to do what it has to do. And remember, we are just players in this market. Actually, we're not even players. We're more like participants. Okay. We are the people that get to watch and gamble. Okay. When you watch a UFC fight, when you watch, anything else, sports, we're the ones that gamble on who's going to win, what's going to happen, and etc. Now, of course, crypto, I don't find it in the same ballpark as gambling. Some people do. I personally believe when there's a very great project and there's a lot of data supporting a project, and not only project, but crypto as a whole, I don't really find it gambling anymore, especially that I do know in general what these charts mean, what these lines mean on my screen. So for me, it's not really a gamble. It's just different. It's just a little bit different. Of course, you never know fully, but it's just calculated guesses. Now, that might just be another saying for gambling, but I'll let you guys decide with that one. But we can see, right, on the 4 hour, we are still bearish, right? We have the green line above the orange line. So despite there being a little bit of momentum in the last 12 hours, because these are 4-hour candles, so we have 1, 2, 3, 3 times 4 is 12, right? Nothing too crazy. Even if we were to go to the upside, there's a good chance that we probably would reject off of this zone that was once a resistance, flipped, could have been support, but now it's a big resistance once again. We can see when we actually remove the indicators, right? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 16 hours of rejections trying to go above this green box, and then we fail, right? We went down, and again, 12 hours of going to the upside, but not the craziest momentum. So we could see Zebec sleeping a little bit for some time. We could just see a slower week overall, but slower week doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad week. Okay. So yeah, just be paying attention. Do not get discouraged, right? The last 3 weeks have technically been bearish, but in terms of the body candles, they have been the equivalent of one weekly buy body candle. So, we still have more buying pressure than we do have selling pressure. And overall, we are still very bullish, especially like once again, when we go and put on our indicator, it is the MA cross, but I do have custom settings. So it's way more accurate because the original is just pretty bad, to be honest. We can still see, right? Price can still afford to go lower and we would still be bullish. So yeah, that is ultimately it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy. Hopefully this explanation was very simple to understand more or less. I love you guys so much. Make sure to check out the previous video regarding the information for Zebec and the Federal Reserve. We talked about how there was a $4 million dollar purchase and transfers for Zebec, how we have very big partners, and a bunch of other things. That is ultimately it. Love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.